Welcome to my sewing room. We have some of the most wonderful techniques for you today, and they'll be brought to you in part by my friend Sheryl Capps. Sheryl is the educational coordinator for the New Home Sewing Machine Company. Let me share with you some of the garments that Sheryl has brought to share. This is the Australian blouse with beautiful built-in machine embroidery. Let me move that sleeve out of the way for you. With beautiful built-in machine embroidery which travels up and down the front panel. I think this is absolutely beautiful in shades of brown done on ecru linen. Let's have a tailored ladies jacket, suit jacket. Isn't that wonderful with the built-in machine embroidery once again on a black linen, just over and over again, put in beautiful built-in patterns. Very sophisticated and very tailored. Now for those of us that love to sew for children and grandchildren, this adorable little pink jumper has a really sweet and delicate little pink embroidery right here in the front, and once again coordinated on the little butterfly or angel sleeves. This is one of my very favorite things to do. Home decorating. Now this beautiful picture is done with totally built-in stitches out of there's no free motion on this beautiful vase of flowers. The flowers are all from built-in memory cards, and the vase and a couple of other little pieces were scanned in. So all you did was touch a button and this beautiful, beautiful picture appeared. I would also like to frame this. Sheryl has done it really beautifully with just a pretty calico border around the edge. She was telling me that for Easter this year at her home, she made this Happy Easter flag, all built in embroidery stitches, and she said her neighbor said, "Oh my goodness, surely you're not going to put that outside?" And she said, "Of course I'm going to put it outside. It washes like a dream and will wear, oh, ever so many years." Once again, a really delicate, beautiful dress. This is the Madeira applique collar and a Madeira applique bow with wing needlework, and that's what Sheryl is going to share with you in a few minutes. Lots of wing needle tricks. You see that beautiful wing needle pin stitch on the Madeira applique collar? And you know, it wouldn't be Martha pulling unless we had a few things to make for a special baby in your family or a friend or someone you're going to make a special baby present for. Built-in embroidery, little delicate pink and green and blue. The beautiful wing needle stitches. How many exciting things that have been used on this baby quilt. Oh my goodness, all the wing needle entree. And then we love to use that built-in embroidery to do all kinds of special things. Even put some embroidery right on top of a wonderful ribbon. Now then, Sheryl has some techniques for you that I think you're going to just be fascinated with. I'm so pleased to have as my guest Sheryl Capps. Sheryl is educational coordinator for the New Home Sewing Machine Company. Sheryl, welcome to the show and show us the magic.
All right, Martha, I'll try to. I'm focusing on wing needle stitching today, different techniques with the wing needle. And the first thing I'd like to show is something I came up with recently, just experimenting like we do with the sewing machine. And I took some silk ribbon and put it through a ribbon sequin foot with a hem stitch, which is stitch 39. My width is 4.5, my length is 1.5. And if you look here at my first sample, I've used a 2mm silk ribbon, then a 3mm, and a final 5mm silk ribbon. And I want to just stitch a little bit of that for you and show you exactly what I've done. The ribbon is being guided by the ribbon sequin foot. It just goes right through the guide. The Venetian hem stitch actually splits that silk ribbon right in the middle. The needle goes right in there. And the finished...
That is so pretty.
When we finish, this is exactly what we have.
All right. Well, show us your next trick. That was wonderful.
Okay. The next thing I'd like to do is put just a regular sasheen ribbon. This is an 1/8 of an inch wide ribbon right through the guide. And I'm just going to change now.
Is that just like a double-faced polyester ribbon?
It is.
Okay. And the kind you buy real easily.
The real cheap kind, Martha. You know,
I love it.
Everything doesn't have to always be real expensive.
That's right.
And I'm going to go to a ladder stitch, which is number 34 on the machine, and I'm going to adjust my width to 6.0 and leave my length at 2.5. And with the wing needle, this is a really pretty embellishment. Sometimes I will do this around the sleeve of a little girl's dress, leave enough ribbon out so I can clip it and tie it into a bow. But you don't have to do a casing because the ladder stitch creates your casing for you.
Okay.
And you see, you could actually pull this up if you wanted to, like I was talking about.
All right.
But I've done it twice on the board. I've used stitch 34, which is the ladder stitch, which I just stitched with the wing needle. And then I also did it with a pin stitch, 26. It just is a little different look. Your hole's more pronounced on one side than the other. And
well, they're both beautiful, and I love the fact that it encases it, and you can slip the ribbon back and forth.
You can.
All right. This is so unbelievable, Sheryl, the fil array, I'm telling you. When you showed me that, I thought, well, I've seen it all now.
Oh, well, I'm just going to switch my feet. I'm going to put on the F open toe foot. It's one of my favorite to use when I do heirloom sewing. I like to really be visual and see where my needle's going when I sew. And to create this, Martha, I now am going to select stitch 32, which is a grandmother's garden stitch on our machine. I'm just going to go down. It's putting all these holes in the fabric with the wing needle, and I won't even go to whole length. I want to just show you, though, how nicely I'm going to position this to stop with the needle on the left, where it first started.
Okay.
Right into the left here.
Okay.
Then I'm going to pivot 180 degrees.
Okay.
And when I start stitching back down, it is going right into the same hole as you see here on the left.
Okay. Oh, I love it. Just keep on stitching so I can see that. That is just absolutely amazing precision, isn't it?
It's wonderful.
Now, would you pull that little sample over here and just show us exactly what that's going to look like?
What I did, I've embellished a whole piece of fabric here. Let me just pull this over so you can see it well. There's my whole piece that I embellished this way. Then I laid my template down, traced around the edge with a water-soluble marking pen. After that was done, I simply laid it down on the fabric I wanted to embellish with this, laid it down, did a straight stitch around the edge, then a zigzag, small zigzag stitch, trimmed my fabric, and the finished product is what you see here with the pin stitch around the edge using the wing needle.
That looks like it was just stitched right in that fabric. I don't think anyone would ever know that you had done a few little tricks on that one.
Well, I just think this is really pretty, and I would like to use that in a project. So I just came up with a technique, and I've just now got to apply it.
I really think that is elegant. Sheryl, thank you so much for sharing these wing needle tricks with us. We just appreciate it.
Thank you.
And next, Sheryl has another special treat for you in the home decorating department. Sheryl has brought to us a really easy Madeira applique technique. The first thing that she's done is make this beautiful tea napkin, and it has the Madeira applique pink border on the white background with the pin stitch, and then over in the corner is a beautiful little machine embroidered flower. Now let's go through this step by step. Step number one is to trace the design off onto your pink fabric and then straight stitch along that design, just stay stitching it. Then take the pink fabric and put it on the base fabric, which is white, and put them together, and then I'm going to straight stitch all along the outside of the tea napkin to join the two pieces together. Then I'm going to turn it right side out. Now after I turn it right side out, then I will have a finished edge. You see, all of that is a finished edge. After pressing it, I will then hand baste very close to the Madeira scallop on the outside and very close to the Madeira scallop on the inside. Hand baste it so it will be held in place. Then go back to your sewing machine and narrow zigzag, teeny tiny zigzag, joining both the front fabric and the back fabric together, the pink and the white. And then after you've stitched that, zigzagged all around it, simply trim away the pink fabric only, and then go back and put that wonderful pin stitch with the wing needle on and do your decorative stitching. And I will tell you, this is one of the easiest Madeira applique techniques that I have ever seen. And now we're going to go over it, and I'm going to ask my friend Sheryl Capps to show you exactly how it's done. But before I do that, I want to show you this placemat. I showed you the tea towel just a minute ago, and now I'd like to share with you this beautiful placemat that goes with the little tea napkin. Sheryl, show us how this is done.
All right, Martha, it's so simple, like you said. I first of all made a pattern for my scallops for the tea napkin and the placemat, traced it onto the fabric, as you can see with my blue marking pen. Then I want to do just a straight stitch at 1.8 stitch length, just something small to really secure that fabric in that line for me. I make a slit in the fabric. I try to go around the outer edge here and trim so the middle will leave me a whole big section to cut out my middle applique.
Okay.
On the next board, you can see where I have turned my piece of fabric and pressed it. Pressing is also important. Then I have hand basted on either side of my scallop. Trimmed, then after I have basted it, before I trim, I have done a very small zigzag, like you mentioned. My zigzag was 0.5, very small, barely going over the line that I had straight stitched. After I did my zigzag, I trimmed my fabric away. This is what makes this technique so easy. I am now going to show you, once you have done that, you're ready to start doing your pin stitching.
Your easy, pretty
my
pin
easy,
stitching.
pretty pin stitching. So I'm just going to get this positioned and start doing my pin stitching.
Now, I see you're using your open toe foot.
I like using the open toe foot, Martha, because I can really see so well where I'm going with the open toe foot. And I have no stabilizer. There again, I have just spray starched several times. With the open toe foot, I can really easily see where I'm going.
I really like that too.
Yes, I do. I love to do that way.
What a beautiful pin stitch. And Sheryl, this is such an easy way to do Madeira. Oh my goodness, it's such an easy way to do Madeira applique.
I just love
Well,
it. So that's how simple that is.
Well, I'll tell you what, and these designs that you have, now show us how you did that pretty middle one in this placemat over here.
On the middle one, I've already got this laid out on a placemat that is in the process of getting finished. Traced my medallion onto my fabric again, did my straight stitch, did my zigzag, and now I'm trimming that away, and I will follow the same method as I have just shown.
Okay.
And once it's all finished, and you've done your pin stitching like I've done on the whole outer edge here already, then you're ready to start using the templates, Martha, for doing the embroidery in the corners of your placemat and on the little napkin. So these were my templates that I used for easy placement. Let me just bring this board back and show you how simple it is. I just place that in here. I find using tape to put this down, I don't have to mark my fabric because I just tape it with my template, and then I can get it perfectly lined up with our cloth setter for embroidering around in each corner. And then in the middle of my medallion, I have another template which I just put right onto the middle like that and positioned it, and that's how we get the beautiful embroidery on the medallion.
And just perfectly in place,
Perfectly in place.
Oh, Sheryl, this is absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much for sharing this easy technique for Madeira applique with us.
Thank you.
And now I have an antique technique to share with you. This little antique coat has the most wonderful sleeves, and that's the technique I'd like to share with you. Absolutely beautiful, this wonderful big collar made of pique, a Swiss pique, with the pretty Swiss trims, and it's got the little box pleats in the front. And you know, when I purchased this coat, one of the main reasons I purchased it was because of this sleeve treatment, which I thought, oh my goodness, that is a beautiful sleeve. Actually, it's a little bit like the New Zealand blouse sleeve that we have on this series too. But this little box pleated sleeve where the fullness is totally gathered in with the pleats is what I would like to share with you now. Here is the sleeve right here. Now you can either gather the fullness in or you can do something else with it, and that's just what we've done. There are several things to look at. First of all, you sew in a tuck. Now I'm going to show you how you do that in just a minute, but you can see we have right at an inch tuck there. Okay, here's how you make that tuck. The dotted lines are the stitching lines. Here is the stitching line, here is the stitching line. The purple line is the fold line. So in order to make that tuck, I'm going to fold it on the fold line, and the dotted line should match. And then I'm going to go over and stitch from top to bottom, or bottom to top, but I happen to like top to bottom better, a tuck. Now here is the tuck that I've just made right here. I don't lay it over to one side. That is not what a box pleat is all about. I'm going to mash the tuck down where the center line, the fold line, is right here in the middle. I'm going to mash that tuck down, and then I'm going to stitch from top to bottom or bottom to top, stitch one side and then stitch the other side. And as you can see, that is what I've already done over here on 1, 2, 3, and it will have 5 box pleats on this particular. Now how are we going to keep all of this nice, safe, and secure? I'm going to go to the back and have a facing. It's almost like a cuff, but I've got a facing which I right sides to right sides, do a 1/4 of an inch seam, and then turn it back. Now let me show you a sample of this little sleeve that is completely finished. All right, I've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 box pleats in here, which will hold in the fullness, and then here is the cuff which has been stitched on completely, and I will just hand whip that, or you can machine whip it if you wanted to also. And that is all there is to making this beautiful technique of the box pleated cuff. And now I have a really pretty quilt square for you. I'm going to share with you today how to do 2 beautiful squares on this quilt. The first one we're going to talk about is what I call the antique shield. It has the laces that go over and under, sort of in a Celtic lace shaping way, and has these really pretty silk organzas, roses up here and then the ruching. This technique on the shield is really the same technique as we've used on this center circle. Now I'd like for you to look at this with me and let me explain a little something. When the lace goes under, do you see how it's being cut away from behind? I stop sewing, and then I start sewing again when I jump over. Now this time the lace goes over, which I sort of call over the bridge, and if it goes over the other piece of lace, I keep on sewing. And now it goes under the other piece of lace, so I stop sewing and jump over here again before I start sewing. Now in just a minute, I'm going to share with you exactly how it is that that happens and make it a little bit more clear. All right, the first lace we're going to show is on the shield. Now then, I told you that sometimes on Celtic lace shaping it goes under and sometimes it goes over. Now I'm going to pick up this piece of lace and take it underneath simply because the one above it is on top. So that makes it really pretty. Now, since it went under the bridge there, I'm going to let it go over the bridge here. So one of them is under and one of them is over. I'm also going to come in here and do a miter at the corners, pin at the bottom, pin at the point that bisects the angle, pull it back on itself, repin the pin, and it will make a perfect miter coming down to the bottom. All right, that's the first step of the over and under shield. Now then, after I have completed the whole shield, it will look like this. Now then, remember I told you a little bit about the sewing? All right, come on over here and let's see what we're going to do. Now I'm going to start sewing here. I am doing a pin stitch, but you can just zigzag. You do not have to have a pin stitch. I'm doing a wing needle pin stitch, and I'm going to get up to this point and I look to see, okay, I'm going to stop. Now I see that this lace is going under the bridge. In other words, under the other piece of lace. So I'm going to lift the presser foot, slip it over to the other side, lower the presser foot, and begin to do my wing needle stitch again. In other words, I did not sew. Now then, I'm going to look at this lace carefully. I'm coming to another intersection, and I can see that it is on top over the bridge, so I'm going to keep right on sewing. And that is the way you do over the bridge and under the bridge sewing. And that really is what makes it pretty. When the lace goes under the bridge, you stop sewing and jump over. When the lace is on top of the bridge, you keep on sewing. And that is the secret of that Celtic lace shaping. All right, now let's go on to see one more time. Let me show you exactly how that works. All right, this lace comes under this piece of lace, so I stopped sewing. Jumped over to this side. All right, this piece of lace now is on top of this piece of lace, so I keep on sewing, and the sewing is what makes it so pretty. Now to finish the shield, I'm going to do two different kinds of work with the ribbon. To make the ruching at the top, which is going to go across and looks like little petals, I run my zigzag by machine up and down, and then I pull it, and then it ruches like this. The rose has two pieces to it. The first part of the rose is just the ribbon with a gathering thread run on one side, pull the gathering thread, and that makes kind of a big fluffy rose. Now for the center and tighter part of the rose, I double the ribbon, run the gathering on one side, and then when I gather it all up, I put it in the middle, and that makes the rose. Now then, on the round circle that we have over there, I put the pins on the outside all the way around, pull the thread, which makes the lace lay down. Of course, I've got to shape the whole thing, but I pull the thread. I do the same type of stitching as I just showed you how on the shield. And then after I get all of the lace shaped around, I will do the pin stitching on the outside, the pin stitching on the inside, and then I will do the same type of stitching when the lace goes over the other piece of lace. I just keep right on sewing. That's called over the bridge. Then this piece of lace goes under the next piece of lace, so I will stop sewing and jump over. When it goes under, you don't want to sew. Now then, when I come back in and trim, as you can see right here too, when you trim away, it really makes it pretty because I've trimmed away that excess lace because it went over the bridge and this one was under the bridge, and you can see how pretty it is when the lace is trimmed. Now won't you come along with me to my attic? I'm so excited about sharing this blouse with you right after the segment I just did on the quilt because it has the same techniques. Absolutely beautiful with its checkerboard look on the front. The two layers of netting around the neckline, but look here, see the laces go over and under and make a beautiful square pieces on the front filled in with tucks. I think that's one of the prettiest blouse fronts I have ever seen. Now we're not through yet. The sleeves are just as pretty as the front of the blouse. You know what, maybe I'll just put my hand underneath here so you can see a little bit better. Do you see those beautiful checkerboard squares, the over and under? We would call that the Celtic lace shaping. Let me turn it over to the back. Absolutely beautiful. Now, do you see then the two rows of lace that come down below? So they've gone over and under, and you remember we showed you how to stitch that to make that look really pretty. Now they didn't have zigzag sewing machines back when this blouse was made, so they had to just do straight stitching, and it looks to me as if there are even two rows of straight stitching to hold it down. And you know what? This lace is one of the most unusual patterns I've ever seen. It is made, has sort of circles on it, and then the circles on the inside almost looks as if someone has satin stitched and done a raised satin stitch. Now my guesstimate is that this was made at the factory in France, but it possibly could have been that some mother took her needle and thread, and I would have to get it under a magnifying glass to tell you for sure, but it looks like she might have even taken a needle and thread and done that little raised satin stitch right in the middle of that lace. Anyway, you could do that if you wanted to, because nothing says you can't just take your needle and thread and do a raised satin stitch. Anyway, let me show you real quickly the back of that blouse. It has the wonderful pin tucks on it and just those tiny, tiny little buttons that are so pretty and so typical. Thank you for joining me in my sewing room today, and I'd like to invite you to come back next time.